Can you believe it? By the age of 22, I was in more debt than my parents' annual income. And it all started just because I wanted to live like everyone else. If there's one thing I learned from years of drowning in debt, it's this. Debt doesn't come from one big decision, but from hundreds of small, seemingly harmless ones. The Starbucks coffee every morning, the new pair of shoes just to fit in with friends, the credit card swiped for fun during a night out. I used to think, it's just a few bucks, and then those few bucks turned into a few thousand, and then tens of thousands of dollars. Today, looking back, I realize financial freedom doesn't start with how much you earn. It starts with how well you understand the money in your pocket. I'm Aiden, 22 years old, a student at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. If you've ever been a U.S. student, you know this feeling. Tuition, textbook fees, rent, and all those hangouts with friends. The money goes somewhere no one knows. All you know is that your account is empty every month. At first, I only borrowed a small student loan to pay for tuition. Everyone does it, I told myself. But then I discovered a credit card, and that was the start of a slippery slope. I bought a new laptop, even though my old one still worked well. I ate out almost 5 days a week because my friends invited me and I didn't want to be left behind. I bought a pair of Nike shoes for $150, just to feel in style. Every time I swiped the card, I thought, I'll pay it back later. But later never came. The breaking point was at the end of my junior year of college. I checked my bank email, the total of my tuition, debt, credit card debt, and other small loans, $37,842. I was numb. That number was almost the price of a new car. From that day on, I lived in a state of constant anxiety. I avoided calls from the bank, afraid to hear them remind me of my debt. I couldn't sleep well. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my bank statement. I started lying to my parents, saying everything's fine so they wouldn't worry. While my friends talked about summer vacations in Florida or trips to Europe, I just stayed silent because even money for dinner was a burden. I once sat in my small dorm room, looking at the white wall and just cried. A 22-year-old guy, but it felt like the whole world was weighing on my shoulders. One evening, my roommate called me to go eat at our usual Mexican restaurant. I made the excuse that I had a group project. But the truth was, I only had exactly $12 in my wallet, not enough for a decent meal. I opened the fridge, found a cheap ramen packet, and ate alone. My eyes stung with tears as I ate. Another time, I stood in front of an ATM to withdraw cash, but my account had less than $5 left. Right behind me, 2 other students were talking about their upcoming trip to Europe. I put my card in the machine, trying not to let anyone see the screen. In that moment, I felt so small and like such a failure that I didn't dare to lift my head. Debt isn't just a number. It's an invisible burden that suffocated all my relationships and emotions. The turning point came one afternoon in the library. I found an old book, The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. Inside, one sentence woke me up. You will never get out of debt until you truly hate it. For the first time in my life, I sat down and wrote everything out. Who I owed and how much. My interest rates. How much I earned from my part-time job at the coffee shop. How much I was actually spending on things I didn't need. The numbers staring back at me made me shudder. But for the first time, I was looking straight at the truth. I decided to change. I cut up my credit card. I called the bank and asked them to close the account. I got more jobs. Besides the coffee shop, I started tutoring online and even delivered food for Uber Eats at night. Some nights, in heavy snow and bitter cold, I would still bike to make a quick extra $20 to $30. I would carefully write down every dollar I earned and put it in a separate envelope. I adopted the envelope system, dividing my cash into separate envelopes for food, transportation, and school supplies. When an envelope was empty, that was it. It was awful at first. I was used to buying whatever I wanted, but now I had to count every single dollar. My friends would laugh and say, "Aiden is so cheap now." I just gave a weak smile, but I knew I was on a different path. One night, I delivered food to a fancy apartment. The owner opened the door, smiled, and gave me a $10 tip. The money wasn't a lot, but I'll never forget it. It was the first time in months I felt someone recognized my effort. In the beginning, I had to turn down invitations to hang out. One time, my friends went to a concert and I stayed home to work. I lay on my bed with my old headphones on, listening to free music on YouTube. I felt sad and a little jealous, but I reminded myself, I'm choosing my future, not just my present. Slowly, I started seeing the numbers on my debt spreadsheet go down. $37,842, then $35,000, then $30,000. Every time I paid off a small chunk, I'd treat myself to a cheap coffee at a campus shop. And for the first time, that coffee tasted so good. After nearly 2 years of struggle, I paid off all my debt. The day I made the final transfer, I sat in front of my laptop, my hands shaking with emotion. I stared at the $0.00 balance and cried. It wasn't because I was brilliant. I simply learned self-discipline. But more importantly, I changed my mindset. I now understand that wealth isn't about buying what you want. It's about the freedom of not having to worry about money. I realized that comparing myself to others only made me poorer. And I know that even as a student, I can control my finances, as long as I start now. If I could go back to my 18-year-old self, I would tell him, don't follow the crowd. A new pair of shoes or a fancy dinner doesn't define you. What truly defines you is how you manage your own life. Now that I'm debt-free, I can think about the bigger picture. Saving for small investments, planning to buy a house someday, or even dreaming about a trip to Europe. But this time, with real savings, not a credit card. I'm Aiden, 22 years old, no longer the student buried in debt. I've learned the most expensive lesson. Money can be your master or your tool. The choice is yours. If you're listening to this story and see yourself in it, stop. Write down the number, face it, and start with one small step. Are you in debt? Comment yes or no below this video. I want to know I'm not alone on this journey. And if you found my story helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can keep learning about money and life together.